So this is I can't stop eating ultra processed food. I believe we watched a video before on ultra processed food, also by Kiana Doherty. Everyone knows what ultra processed is, right? And how they basically make you never stop eating the America way. Basically, ultra processed food is it's like already digested food because of the way they make it. And then because it's like that, um you don't really get that full feeling that you normally would, because your body doesn't have to work as much to digest it. So then you just feel hungry. That's why you eat a whole McDonald's meal and then like an hour later you're like, why am I still hungry? What the hell? Because it's ultra processed. Yep. Yep. All right. Let's learn.
1 in 7 adults are now addicted to ultra processed food, including this guy. His name is
Ugh.
Jeffrey Odwosny, and he claims to have been addicted to ultra processed food since he was a little kid. And Jeffrey is not the only one. Apparently, 1 in 8 children are now addicted to ultra processed food. And I mean like clinically addicted, showing symptoms of true addiction according to this paper from 2023. And if the findings are correct, where will we be in 5, 10, 20 years?
Oh my god! Oh, Wally! Oh, now I want to watch this. I haven't seen it in forever. Similar to why with Pringles, it's hard to stop at a few once you start eating. Yup. Oh yeah, Pringles are ultra processed. They are ultra processed because you basically can't make Pringles at home. So
if things don't change, will we seriously have an entire generation of ultra processed food addicted kids? I started thinking about this after reading this CNN article on that guy, Jeffrey Odwosny. This disorder has almost killed me. His addiction to ultra processed food began as a child. His story is so extreme that it sounds like he's addicted to something much, much more serious than food, the thing we all consume every single day. So in this video, we're discussing the rise of...
to be fair, food addiction can be really serious though, so...
ultra processed food addiction in kids, starting with Jeffrey's story. Chicago native Jeffrey Odwosny says he has been addicted to ultra processed food since he was a child. I was driven to eat and eat and eat, and while I would overeat healthy food, what really got me were the candies, the cakes, the pies, the ice cream, said the 54-year-old former warehouse supervisor. I really gravitated towards the sugary ultra processed foods. It was like a physical drive. I had to have it. My parents would find hefty bags full of candy wrappers hidden in my closet. I would steal things from stores as a kid and later as an adult. I too also had a closet full of candy wrappers. Kate, before we go any further, let's quickly define ultra processed food so we're all on the same page. Ultra processed foods are packaged foods you can't make in your own kitchen. They're made mostly or entirely from ingredients that have been extracted, modified, or created in a lab, not whole foods. These products go through multiple industrial steps and are filled with additives, flavorings, and other engineered ingredients. The result...
Oh my god! Speak of the devil. There's the Pringles. There's the Pringles. Yeah, I feel like most people, when you ask them like, oh, what do you think of when you think of addictions? Most people don't think of food, because most people are just like, oh, well, you could just stop eating so much, without realizing that it can actually be an addiction. Because most people will be like, oh, well, addiction is like drugs and alcohol and whatever.
Products masquerading as real food. And one of the main problems with ultra processed food that we now know for sure is that it is actually designed to addict you to it. The food manufacturers try to make you eat as much of it as possible because obviously it helps them sell more of it. Now, since Jeffrey is...
yeah, because they need money, so obviously they need you to keep buying their products.
54 years old, that would mean he was growing up in the late 70s and early 80s.
When you want a hot meal without a big deal, Hot Pocket.
Hot Pocket.
And at that time, ultra-processed food was really just starting to take off. For reference, the Happy Meal was only invented in 1979, and you're at a time where more and more ultra-processed food is hitting the shelves, the freezers, and the microwaves every single year.
Delicious little macaroni shaped like a roller coaster.
Somebody order a
Huh?
pizza bake?
Frosting outside, real fruit filling
Pop-Tarts!
inside, and fortified with vitamins and minerals.
Yummy!
So when Jeffrey says he was
Oh, yeah! They're pulling apart a Pop-Tart full of sugar, trying to be like, oh yeah, it's full of vitamins and everything.
addicted to ultra-processed foods since childhood, he was literally growing up during the rise of the modern UPF era. Ultra-processed foods are really kind of just babies themselves. I mean, the world had just gotten Cool Ranch Doritos. You know what I mean?
Cool Ranch flavor on a chip. New Cool Ranch flavored Doritos brand tortilla chips.
And even all the way back then, products were being enhanced with salt, sugar, and fat to make them as craveable as possible, but nowhere near to the degree that we see today. Today's food industry has mutated and evolved several times over since the Beanie Weenie days.
We love those itsy bitsy teeny weeny
Bum, bum, bum,
kids that make us weeny weeny.
Now there's so much science that goes into our food, and modern children are up against a much more addictive food environment. Some 12% of the nearly 73 million children and adolescents in the United States today struggle with a similar food addiction, according to research.
Wow.
To be diagnosed, children must meet Yale Food Addiction Scale criteria, as stringent as any for alcohol use disorder or other addictions. That is such a crazy stat. 12%? That's around 9 million children. Can you imagine? That's like New
Oh
York
my
City.
god! Wow! Like, yeah, because you take the number 12, right? And you're like, 12% doesn't seem that bad. Until you say, oh, but that means there's 90 million kids that are addicted.
Just full of junk food addicted kids. And it's important to state clearly again, we
Wow.
are not just talking about kids liking junk food. We're not even talking about kids getting all hopped up on sugar and Mountain Dew. We are talking about kids actually getting addicted.
Oh
which
my
means
God.
These kids show symptoms like intense cravings, loss of control, and withdrawal. 10-year-olds, 7-year-olds, maybe
No.
even younger, meeting the criteria.
No thanks, I'm good. I don't want to deal with
That
that.
is just not okay. Why do we have a food environment where this is happening?
911 emergency.
Hi, is this McDonald's?
McDonald's? No, this is the Mesa Police
What
Department.
the hell?
Emergency?
Can I get one with
Give me-
that meal?
But what are these kids addicted to?
911, what's your emergency? Can I get chicken nuggies? Please?
Because I feel like it's probably not cubes of cheese and avocados. Like, you don't see kids running
What?
around addicted.
Oh my god, he actually brought the kid a friggin' Happy Meal? That's kind of cute though, actually.
Cheese and avocados. Like,
cute.
you don't see kids running around addicted to sugar, snap peas, and chicken breast. No, they're getting addicted to sugary, salty, colorful, fun, heavily marketed, scientifically engineered, ultra-processed foods. Dr. Ashley Gearhart's research also shows about 14% of adults are clinically addicted to food, predominantly ultra-processed foods, with higher levels of sugar, salt, fat, and additives. While many
Yup.
people addicted to food
This country is so fudged up when it comes to food. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, our portion sizes here are like so bad. And like I don't even live in the US. Like the US is worse, but Canada is also bad. Like when Jello and I went to Cuba, and the first time we got served food, we looked at the plate and we were like, oh, we're supposed to be full after this? So I kid you not, the whole time we were in Cuba, like I felt like we were just constantly looking for food to eat. Because, I feel like what they serve is should be what the normal portion size is. But because we're so used to bigger portions, we're just like, we need more food. Oh, this is normal, yeah. Oh, this is what a normal food portion looks like. Okay, can we have about 5 times this? Thank you.
Food will say their symptoms began to worsen significantly in adolescence, some recall a childhood focus on ultra-processed food. By age 2 or 3, children are likely eating more ultra-processed foods in any given day than a fruit or vegetable, especially if they're poor and don't have enough money in their family to eat enough quality.
Yeah, because this ultra-processed friggin' shit is cheaper than buying vegetables and fruits nowadays. Cuba's one of the countries Canadians can still visit, but Americans can't. I don't know because like when we were there, we were meeting lots of Americans. So I don't know. I don't know how it works.
Food to eat. 2 or 3 years is mind-blowing. It immediately made me think of that little baby Cuba from that British fast food babies documentary. The one who was like 18 months old, drinking 6 cans of soda a day and only eating French fries. Meanwhile, his dad was like, I don't have control over what he eats.
I got no control over what he eats.
Sir, he can't reach up to the cupboards, okay? He can barely.
You're the
You
one
have
literally
all
giving
of the
him.
control over-
You're the one that gives him the food. You literally have control over what he eats. What? What? What do you mean? Is your 3-year-old child going to the grocery store then? And your 3-year-old child is the one doing all the cooking? What? Hello, Kaiser! I'm doing well today. It's a holiday, so I got a 3-day weekend. How are you? My gosh.
Over what he eats. But the baby Cuba situation is a rare one. The real reason most kids are eating mostly ultra-processed foods from the time they're 2 or 3 is because almost everything in the grocery store is an ultra-processed food.
Wow.
It's because we all mostly eat ultra-processed foods. This is a UPF. This is a UPF. This is a UPF. Most of the kids' aisles are UPF.
This is so true. Like, it's so true. When I went to the grocery store, I actually one time took the time to actually pay attention to all the food aisles, and I was like, holy shit. Yeah, it's literally just all ultra processed foods. Almost all.
When you picture what ultra-processed foods kids are eating, you're probably imagining, I don't know, something like Dino Nuggies, Uncrustables, Welch's Fruit Snacks.
I've never had Uncrustables.
And maybe a Sunny D. I feel like that is the meal that like pops up in my head when I think about kids ultra-processed.
Sunny D!
But here's the insane thing, okay? That's not the prototypical meal. According to this new study, most of the ultra-processed foods being consumed by kids are not the usual suspects. They're actually foods that are pretending to be healthy. I'll let this guy from Reddit who actually has a kid take it away. Most of the UPF that the toddlers consumed came from sources that are generally believed to be healthier, such as breakfast cereals and flavored yogurts. If you've had a
breakfast cereal, are you actually serious? Breakfast cereal? I can understand the flavored yogurts being something that you would think would be healthier, but cereal? Really?
child recently, you'll be aware that the vast majority of food marketed to them is UPF disguised as healthy food. Things like fruit and grain bars, yogurts of all sorts, melt in your mouth type puffy foods, or cereals that are supposedly safer for those new to chewing. It's a really successful and deceptive marketing campaign taking advantage of parents who are well-intended but lacking knowledge of UPF. 100%. And that is what's so frustrating about these foods. It's one thing if you're intentionally buying junk food. It's quite another if you're being tricked into buying something that you sincerely believed is healthy. I mean, look at this kid's UPF right here. So even if you're trying to be the healthiest parent you can possibly be, you are set up at every single turn to fail. Because you'd think foods that promise you that they were healthy for your child would be. Is that really so much to ask? If a product calls itself a fruit snack, for example, and boasts tons of vitamins and minerals, you would hope that it contains at least some fruit. But for some strange reason, that is just not the world that we live in. Most kid snacks have the salt, sugar, and fat cranked and then hidden as best as possible in the ingredients list. And kids' brains are just not ready to deal with foods that are potentially engineered to be addictive. Ultra-processed food addiction also teaches the young brain what to expect from food, like how much sugar reward one should get from eating a snack, which makes healthier options less appealing. It's almost
Yeah, if you're actually looking to eat healthier and stuff, you really have to pay attention to what the ingredients are in everything that you buy and also the nutrition label. And even then, it's a little bit hard, but if you're not checking that stuff and you're just reading what's advertised on the thing, you know. No, because they are heavily false advertising. Flappy Lappy! I love it. Not me eating poutine once a week. Then same. We eat out too much still. We eat out. Like, we go to the local barbecue place at least once a week. It's bad. It's bad.
virtually impossible for a child or even a 14 or 15-year-old to be able to override all of this biology for very long, he added. In other words, a diet made up of 80% scientifically engineered junk food changes what kids want to and are actually willing to eat. But yeah, this new generation of kids is becoming straight up dependent on ultra processed foods. They're eating tons of it, and then it's making them want to eat nothing but it. Like, if you can hook a kid in childhood, you basically have them for life. Which reminds
Because if you give them all these things that are like filled with sugar and stuff and it's sweet and it's like like their mouth is just filled with flavor, and then you try to take that away and replace it with stuff that's a little more bland and stuff, but healthier, they're gonna be like, no, I don't want this now. Whereas if you start with the bland stuff, well, that's what they're gonna be used to. So, yeah. Probably is the real reason why it's so hard to get them to eat veggies. Yup.
me of that documentary called Junk Food Kids, not to be confused with Fast Food Baby. I talked about it like a year or so ago. And I remember this cute little girl, Denisa, she was told by the doctors she'd need to lose weight and she was dangerously obese for her age, which was like 11 or something.
Wow.
But she tried to change without success and blamed herself for her inability to give up junk food.
It's just hard not to eat what you want to eat. Some people, like me, are just too addicted to junk food.
But at that age, Denise's prefrontal cortex...
The addiction to this kind of food is, in my opinion, I don't know, maybe it's a stretch, but I would honestly say it's probably no different than being as addicted to cigarettes.
Hasn't developed yet. She's no match for junk food engineered to be addictive and the science backing the food industry. The child is very important to the food industry because if you have Oreos, say, as a little kid, you are probably going to love Oreos forever. But if you don't, you're unlikely to have a soft spot for them as an adult. You know what I mean? It's so important to get them at that age so they keep buying your product forever. Also, upon closer inspection, part of the reason Denisa was struggling was that her parents also seemed to have some UPF addictions of their own that they blamed on Denisa.
We keep one diet.
The parents didn't help.
It was very good, but now we cannot keep. She cannot give up the bread. She likes very much.
Sometimes she go to the fridge in the night. Some sweets.
As I'm sure you know, this clinic is a surgical clinic. Do you understand that?
For us, it's the best solution. We try to diet. We try to do many things. We didn't succeed.
15 minutes after leaving the hospital, Denise's parents take her for one last
treat.
Oh
my god. One last
clearly
treat.
People seem to be actually getting truly addicted to ultra-processed foods. Well, revisit Jeffrey's story in just a second. But it must be said that not everyone agrees with the idea that ultra-processed food addiction even exists. I've heard
Exactly.
that
That's
some
what I was
very
saying.
well-respected, honest scientists disagree. The Institute of Food Technologists and Association of Food Professionals and Technologists does not agree with the research on ultra-processed food addiction. While there is growing concern that some foods may be addictive for certain subpopulations, including children, there is currently no scientific consensus to support that concern, said IFT's Chief Science and Technology Officer Brian Hitchcock in an email. Food addiction is also not recognized by the World Health Organization's International Classification of Diseases and is a
You know what? I would not even be this. I don't know this. It's not. I'm just speculating. I would not even be surprised if the food industry is paying them to say this shit. I would not be surprised. Hello, Amy. Welcome in. Welcome in.
Subject of debate in the scientific community, according to the International Food and Beverage Alliance and Industry Association. Oh, well, that's good to know. I guess ultra-processed food addiction isn't a problem after all. Oh, wait, what's that? Both of these organizations are arms of the food industry? The Institute of Food Technologists takes money from Coca-Cola and General Mills.
Oh my god, what did I say 5 seconds ago?
National Food and Beverage Alliance? I mean, listen to the name of it. It literally is the food industry. IFBA was founded in 2008 by the CEOs of leading food and non-alcoholic beverage companies to empower consumers to eat balanced diets and live healthier lives. Our members? McDonald's, PepsiCo, the Coca-Cola Company, Ferrero, General Mills, Bimbo, Kellanova, Mondelez International. Yeah, the people who think that ultra-processed food addiction doesn't exist are the people who make the ultra-processed
Well, we should 100% listen to them, right? Obviously.
See, that's what I don't understand. Why would they even include their opinion in this article? Like, they're clearly the most biased source. And I love how these CEOs seriously behave like a cartoon of an evil CEO. Like, you guys really got together to make a club to be like, no, don't look at that science. Look at this science. And I mean, let's check back with Jeffrey. What does his life situation tell us about what food addiction can be like? Traumatic experience.
Don't blame your child for your failure to stick to a diet that's beyond fudged up and so damaging to your child. I would know I was blamed for my entire family's emotional and mental state when I wasn't doing well. Yeah. Well, oh yeah, sorry. For some reason yeah, because they were like blaming her for not being able to stick to her diet. But she was too young that they could have probably helped influence her, but they obviously weren't. Like, obviously, after a certain point, your kid is an adult, so yeah, at that point it would be them. But like when they're young like that, you're the one who is in control mostly of what they're eating. So
experiences in early childhood helped to trigger and nurture his addiction to ultra-processed foods, Adwasny said. One of my earliest memories is being in a high chair with ashtrays going over my head and plates smashing into the walls. Instead of saying I'm sorry or showing love, my family would feed me. At first, he said his parents thought his overeating was funny and began calling him names such as the creeper when he would escape from his crib in the night to raid the refrigerator. As he grew, however, Adwasny's parents began to put locks on the refrigerator and kitchen cabinets. He was often ashamed of his eating.
Okay, hold on, wait. If I think about this from an actual, like, family perspective, I can see the creeper nickname being funny. You know, in certain contexts, like, oh, you know, they're just, like, laughing, and they're like, oh, yeah, he's the creeper. He sneaks out in the middle of the night for snacks. But I don't really see that as bad, but overall their behavior around the food is bad.
Serious trauma right there, and this is obviously a very extreme circumstance. But what it shows is that ultra-processed foods are really the most accessible drug there is. It can be an unhealthy coping mechanism that we all have access to. And it doesn't become a drug for everyone, but for a growing number of people, it clearly can be. And from what I understand, people can be addicted to almost anything. I'm sure some
Yeah,
people
that's
could be
true.
addicted to any type of food, even if it wasn't ultra processed, which is what makes it so much more dangerous that ultra processed foods are being engineered using brain scans and neuroscience to get people hooked and then just being sold as normal food. It's really creating the conditions for a bad situation. And as a former food addict, you don't need to go through serious trauma to be addicted to food. And my situation was more mild, but it was still extremely destructive to my life. I just feel like it's crazy that there are no laws barring these companies from selling food that's been literally engineered to be addictive. Like, and I feel
Seriously,
like the
there
only
should
people
be.
who would disagree with that are the food industry themselves. Despite his preoccupation with food, Odwosny was careful not to overeat in front of strangers as he grew up. Instead, when faced at a party with trigger foods such as chocolate-covered peanut butter cups, he would leave to buy that specific food. This disorder took over his life. Before one meal of highly processed food was over, he was thinking about where to find the next. By 2016, his food addiction was at its worst. I mean, if you swap out food for drugs in this guy's story, it still makes sense. That's how extreme it is. The hiding, the secretive eating, the blacking out, the shame, the stealing, it mirrors the behaviors of people addicted to alcohol, drugs, or gambling. And a key feature is that many people who find themselves in this situation don't feel like they can stop. These foods are clearly destructive to their lives, but they literally can't separate themselves from them. And in the case of food, I mean, it's not like you need to find a drug dealer, it's everywhere all the time. Eating higher amounts of ultra-processed foods raises the risk of obesity and the development of chronic conditions including cancer, cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, and depression. Still, many people find it hard to stop eating overly processed convenience foods such as hot dogs, french fries, crackers, frozen pizzas, sausages, sodas, donuts, candy,
What the hell?
Nutrition is another issue.
I didn't know that's how the pizza sauce was put on. That's kind of cool.
Processed foods are often missing critical nutrients the body needs, which are especially important during childhood when the brain and body are growing. What is left after all the high heat and manipulation needed to create the ultra-processed foods are the macronutrients, the calories, the carbohydrates, the fats, and sometimes a little protein. Micronutrients are typically destroyed, which include the vitamins, minerals, and antioxidant compounds that are known to confer health benefits. Children who eat a lot of ultra-processed foods could well be malnourished. So a lot of times what you'll see is these ultra-processed foods have the nutrients added back in so they don't actually appear like nutritionally empty. The simplest example is white flour. It's enriched. We add back in the nutrients that were kind of stripped out when it was processed. But it's just not the same thing as getting the nutrients from their natural source. We don't even—
Wait, you're telling me that the flour is also ultra processed? What? What the hell does ultra processed flour? What? Not ultra processed flour. What the hell does not ultra processed flour? Whole grain. What? So whole grain flour. Nothing you eat isn't processed in some way unless you pulled the food out of the ground yourself. Honestly, Eli, yeah, like at this point, everything in the grocery store is somehow processed in some kind of way, most of it. You shouldn't eat raw flour, you can get salmonella from it. Yeah. So like, yeah, the only flour that isn't ultra processed is whole grain or other flours like coconut, almond, quinoa, or buckwheat. What the freaking hell? What? Oh my god. That's kind of insane.
Even quite fully understand how food works and interacts with our body, but we just know that stripping it all down and pulling it out and then putting it back in is not as effective as eating the real thing. But ideally, you're getting it from real food. But if you're eating mostly ultra-processed foods, it's like having all your nutrients coming from multivitamins. And kids that are only eating ultra-processed foods are in trouble. Actually, just earlier this year, a kid in Massachusetts went blind because he was only eating hamburgers, french fries, and juice boxes. Now, according to the International Food and Beverage Alliance, remember that's the food industry, our trusted source. According to the International—
Yeah, the main problem is ultra processed. That's right, Massacre. Processed food is okay because that's like milk and cheese and not milk. cheese. It's like cheese and stuff. The ultra processed is what the problem is.
Food and Beverage Alliance, however, there is no clear, objective, reliable, or scientifically validated definition for ultra-processed food. It is a catch-all, non-scientific concept that doesn't adequately account for nutritional differences in products. The scientific evidence to date, and agreed upon by many authorities internationally, is that it is ultimately the nutritional composition of foods and of an individual's diet that matters. Ah yes, ultra-processed food, the concept invented by a scientist for scientists, is a non-scientific concept. I keep hearing this around that's a non-scientific term.
Wow,
the concept of
okay.
ultra-processed foods is very much so a scientific term. It was created in 2009 by a Brazilian scientist named Carlos Monteiro. He was thinking about the problem of the obesity epidemic and the growing issue of diet-related chronic disease. And we had been just looking at the nutrients in foods for a very long time, aka doing the thing that the IFB suggested. That model, sometimes called nutritionism, proposed the idea that we stop just looking at the nutrient composition in foods, because clearly that wasn't working for us. The nutrition composition is what we've been looking at for the last however many decades, and it hasn't been working. He thought, what if it's not just the nutrient composition? What if it's the processing of these foods? It's how these foods are being made. According to Monteiro, ultra-processed foods are not food. They are concoctions. And they contain some real foods, but they end up turning
They're like science experiments.
Into a hodgepodge of dyes, flavorings, emulsifiers, and thickeners developed in the laboratory to last longer and cost less, with intense flavor and preferably not satiating for people to eat more and more. All this ultra-processed food stuff sometimes sounds too crazy to be true. Like, even the word ultra-processed food kind of sounds like your typical diet buzzword, but it's a very real situation. Yes, it needs more research like everything, but there's more and more of it being done every single day, and none of it is looking good. And I'm honestly kind of shocked that CNN didn't report the origin of this claim, because it's not a secret that this company is the food industry. I mean, it's literally named the International Food and Beverage Alliance. It may as well just be called Big Food United. Overcoming his addiction to food and later alcohol has been a difficult journey for Adwasny. In an attempt to control his eating, he underwent 2 bariatric surgeries that typically have a high success rate.
2 of
Miserable
them.
and so overweight he could no longer do his job, Adwasny went on short-term disability and checked into rehab for a bit. The treatment plan didn't work.
Oh my
so he tried
God.
another and then another. Today, Adwasny is in recovery and is studying to become a certified alcohol and drug counselor in the Chicago area. He credits much of his success to his wife, Kimmy, who he met during the COVID-19 pandemic while attending support groups. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and
Oh
I'll
my
see you
God.
in the next one.
Wow, that's sad. I can't believe, I mean, I can believe that they wouldn't friggin' recognize food addiction as an addiction. Like, it's so stupid. All they want to do is just keep blaming everyone. Oh, well, you could just not eat it. Well, I don't know. You could just not smoke that cigarette then. I don't know. Or you could just not drink that bottle of beer.